Her smile isn't accidental. Her silence isn't random. Every glance, every pause, every word is deliberate. When you assume she's unsure, she isn't. She's observing you like a jeweler studying a diamond, and not for beauty, but for cracks. Women instinctively read men's stability, scanning for signals of strength or weakness in ways most men never notice. Every woman, whether consciously aware or not, carries her own internal scale for measuring power. She doesn't need to verbalize it, she applies it automatically. With an almost frightening speed, she assesses, calculates, and adjusts. While you assume the interaction is casual, her subconscious is running diagnostics, testing your presence, authority, and emotional steadiness. You think the conversation is harmless? You believe her teasing remark is just playful banter. You assume her glance away is meaningless. It isn't. These are micro-tests designed to reveal the strength of your frame. She wants to know if you can lead without begging, command without controlling, influence without forcing. To her, this isn't game playing, it's survival instinct. When you finally understand this, you stop interpreting her actions as random mood swings or confusing signals. Instead, you see the evolutionary mathematics behind them. For a woman, instability in a man signals danger, risk, chaos, and uncertainty. To her subconscious, choosing a weak man could mean lower survival odds. However, the opposite is also true. The moment she senses unshakable command, calmness under pressure, presence without performance, her instincts flip. What was once caution becomes fascination. Fascination then turns into intrigue, and intrigue often evolves into obsession. This is the threshold most men never cross because they fail to recognize the invisible evaluation happening in real time. Imagine you're sitting across from her at a cafe. She looks at you, then briefly glances at the waiter as he passes, her lips curling into the faintest smirk before she returns her attention to you. She leans slightly forward and asks casually, "So, what exactly do you do?" To the untrained man, this seems innocent. To the aware man, it's the start of a power audit. This isn't really about your job, it's about your identity. Evolutionary psychology calls this a mate value probe. She wants to place you within a hierarchy without revealing she's doing so. The smirk matters. It signals that her words may sound playful, but the meaning behind them is serious. She's not looking for data. She's measuring how grounded you are in your self-concept. What she truly wants to know is simple. Do you stand firm in who you are, or do you bend under perceived pressure? If your confidence depends on her validation, she senses it immediately. If you scramble to impress, you fail the test before it even begins. The question isn't meant to learn your resume. It's designed to expose whether your value is self-sustained. Most men fail here. They answer like candidates at an HR interview, posturing and performing. I work in tech, I just got promoted, I manage a team, and I'm building this exciting project. They over-explain, hoping credentials will buy attraction. But the problem isn't the information. The problem is the frame. He's trying to prove himself instead of embodying quiet certainty. Once he takes the bait, the polarity flips instantly. She becomes the evaluator and he becomes the applicant. Without realizing it, he's surrendered control of the frame. Subconsciously, she interprets this as weakness. A man whose identity depends on external approval will crumble under real pressure. Instinctively, her attraction drops, not because of his job, but because of his response. The power response shifts everything. When she asks, "So what exactly do you do?" the grounded man doesn't treat it like an interrogation. He meets her eyes, smiles faintly, and says, "I do what I want." Then he lets silence breathe. If she presses, he adds casually, "Right now, that means building things I care about. No rush. No nervous filler. Pure, calm presence. This answer works because of what it subcommunicates. His worth is self-defined, independent of her evaluation. Machiavelli would call this effortless authority, power demonstrated by not needing to justify yourself. Only men who are used to high regard can afford brevity. Her perception shifts instantly. Curiosity replaces control, and now she's the one seeking access to his world. This scenario unfolds where words take a back seat and actions speak louder. You're at a crowded rooftop gathering, music low enough for soft conversations, lights dim, energy buzzing. You and her are walking side by side when suddenly she spots someone she knows. She lightly touches your arm, excuses herself, and walks toward him with a warm smile and soft laughter. From a distance, you see her lean in slightly, brush his arm as she laughs, and glance back at you, not to seek reassurance, but to measure your response. This isn't accidental, it's intentional. She's not testing loyalty here, she's testing security. At a subconscious level, she wants to know if your composure holds steady when her attention briefly shifts elsewhere. This is a primal behavioral probe rooted in evolutionary psychology. For her, a man's emotional stability signals survival value. If your authority collapses under minor social pressure, you're perceived as unreliable. The question she's asking without words is simple. Are you still sovereign when her attention isn't yours? Or do you emotionally shrink the moment another man enters the frame? The weak response is painfully common. Many men tense up the moment she steps away. Their body language stiffens. Their focus stays locked on her, and anxiety starts bubbling beneath the surface. When she returns, they disguise insecurity with humor. So, who's your new friend? Or they sulk, going quiet and detached. Either way, the subtext screams dependency. Psychologically, this reaction is disastrous. It communicates that your emotional stability relies on her constant focus. This reframes you as reactive rather than grounded. She reads this instinctively. If minor distractions shake you, bigger challenges will break you. It's not about jealousy, it's about predictability. To her subconscious, volatility signals risk, and risk kills attraction. The collapse doesn't come from feeling bothered, it comes from showing it. Once you reveal that her actions can easily disrupt your emotional center, the power dynamic shifts. Without realizing it, she places herself above you in the hierarchy. Now she must manage your reactions. From that point forward, she can't unsee your fragility, and attraction quietly starts to fade. The power response is subtle, controlled, and devastatingly effective. She steps away, you don't follow with your eyes. You don't shift your posture or energy. Instead, you naturally turn your attention elsewhere. Maybe chatting with someone nearby, maybe listening to an interesting story. You stay engaged in your own world, fully present, unaffected by temporary diversions. When she glances back, she doesn't see a man monitoring her every move. She sees a man immersed in his own reality. Her subconscious takes note. Your composure isn't tied to her attention. You have your own gravitational pull, your own orbit. This signals abundance. The quiet power of a man who doesn't cling, doesn't compete, and doesn't need validation to remain centered. In Machiavellian terms, this is strategic restraint, refusing to contest for small ground. True rulers don't panic when focus temporarily shifts. They know their position is secure. By not reacting, you communicate that her momentary interaction is insignificant in the bigger picture. Ironically, your lack of concern creates the exact effect most men chase: renewed intrigue. She expected to see at least a flicker of possessiveness, some tiny sign of insecurity. Instead, she's met with calm composure. This forces her to recalibrate. If you're not unsettled by her interaction, it must mean one of two things. Either you're deeply confident in your value, or you have options she doesn't know about. Both possibilities increase your perceived status instantly. From here, a subtle shift begins. This moment plants a reference point in her mind, an anchor of how you behave under social tension. The next time she's around other men, comparisons happen automatically. If another man cracks under similar conditions, her mind recalls your unshaken presence. Over time, this contrast makes your emotional sovereignty both rare and addictive. Attraction deepens not because you passed her test, but because you demonstrated mastery over yourself. You signaled abundance, strength, and stability without saying a word. In her subconscious, you've now become the man who cannot be easily destabilized, the one who thrives in unpredictable environments. That quiet power lingers, and fascination begins to take root. This test happens in private, in the quiet space where guards drop but hidden evaluations continue. You're sitting together in her living room after a late dinner. Soft music in the background, the energy calm but charged. She studies you for a moment, leans back slightly, and says with playful curiosity, "You know, I can't quite figure you out." To the untrained ear, this sounds like a compliment, maybe even an invitation to open up. But beneath the surface, it's a deliberate probe. She's not actually seeking answers. She's measuring how you handle being framed as a puzzle. Do you rush to explain yourself, or do you allow the mystery to live? This moment reveals whether your depth is real or manufactured. From an evolutionary lens, this test is ancient. It's designed to assess how much control you have over your self-disclosure. A man who overshares at the smallest nudge signals porous boundaries, a fragile identity, and a need for approval. But a man who holds his ground, revealing slowly on his terms, communicates layered depth, self-possession, and unshakable value. The weak response is predictable. Most men grin, lean forward, and immediately launch into explanation mode. Oh, really? Well, here's what you should know about me. Suddenly, they're listing personal stories, past struggles, dreams, and insecurities, thinking vulnerability will create connection. But beneath it, they're performing for validation without realizing they've given up the frame. Psychologically, this collapse happens for two reasons. First, by responding on demand, you grant her the role of interrogator while you become the subject under review. Second, the mystery she initially sensed, the very thing that intrigued her, evaporates instantly. If she can fully figure you out in one sitting, then by definition there wasn't much depth to begin with. Scarcity fuels fascination. When you make your inner world too accessible, you unconsciously devalue it. She stops wondering because there's nothing left to uncover. Her subconscious reads this as low-status behavior. Men of truly high value are rarely in a rush to reveal themselves. By removing the unknown too quickly, you strip away the tension that drives intrigue. The power response is almost paradoxical. When she says, "I can't quite figure you out," you smile faintly, hold her gaze, and reply with just one word: "Good." Then, without hesitation, you redirect the conversation toward her, asking something personal, inviting her into deeper self-expression. You shift the dynamic subtly, guiding the flow back into your frame. This works because it subcommunicates two critical traits: control and abundance. Control because you choose what and when to reveal. Abundance because you're comfortable letting her curiosity grow naturally without forcing connection. In Machiavellian terms, this is controlled opacity, withholding just enough to spark intrigue while staying firmly in command of the narrative. By protecting your inner world, you signal self-worth. You're telling her, without saying it, that access to you is earned, not given by default. This scarcity principle triggers psychological investment. People chase what they can't fully grasp. You create an open loop in her mind, and once opened, the human brain instinctively seeks closure, usually through deeper pursuit. Her perception shifts instantly. Instead of feeling like she has you mapped out, she realizes there's more beneath the surface than she can immediately access. That realization hooks her curiosity at a deeper level. Now, instead of you seeking her approval, she finds herself seeking yours. Leaning in, probing further, subtly working to be invited deeper into your world. Over time, this moment becomes a reference point in her attraction curve. Other men will overshare, other men will scramble to prove their depth. In contrast, your quiet restraint signals something rare, a man whose value exists independently of external validation. This makes you memorable because she associates you with controlled unpredictability, a man who can't be boxed in. Mystery becomes addictive. The less you reveal, the more her imagination fills the gaps. She replays your words, analyzes your silences, and invests mental energy trying to solve you. But you remain composed, unhurried, and unpressured. That balance between presence and privacy creates a gravitational pull few can resist. Controlled opacity becomes your greatest advantage. This test unfolds in public, where group dynamics silently shape attraction. You're at a dinner party, sitting at a long table filled with familiar faces and strangers alike. Conversations ripple around you, overlapping in pockets. At first, she's focused on you, laughing and engaging. But soon, her attention shifts toward a lively group across the table, drawn into their energy. The spotlight drifts, and this is where the real test begins. Do you quietly fade into the background, waiting for her focus to return? Or do you maintain your presence effortlessly? Evolution has wired women to subconsciously assess a man's social gravity. Can he hold his own in a mixed environment? Or does his relevance exist only when she's actively engaging him? This isn't about ego, It's about perceived status. For her subconscious, how you navigate social hierarchies signals your capacity to lead, protect, and thrive. If you disappear when her attention moves elsewhere, she reads it as low value. If instead you remain composed and magnetic, she instinctively associates you with influence. A man who shapes the room rather than chases it. The weak response often hides beneath polite smiles. Many men, feeling sidelined, disengage from the broader table. They poke at their drink, scroll their phone, or sit silently, waiting for her validation to re-anchor them. Some attempt to reclaim her attention through whispers, inside jokes, or jokes aimed specifically at her. Subtle bids to pull her focus back. Psychologically, this signals dependence. If your energy drops without her gaze, she interprets it as emotional tethering. In her subconscious, it communicates a dangerous weakness. Your presence only matters when you're being validated. To her evolutionary instincts, this suggests you won't thrive independently in complex social settings, which quietly erodes long-term attraction. The collapse isn't in losing her attention, it's in showing you needed it. When your social value appears contingent on her focus, you're reframed as secondary, not central. This dynamic undermines polarity because influence isn't claimed by clinging to others. It's earned by generating your own gravity. Once this shift occurs, fascination begins leaking into subtle disinterest. The power response, by contrast, is seamless. When her attention drifts elsewhere, you don't flinch, compete, or try to reclaim it. Instead, you naturally engage the person next to you or across from you. You ask thoughtful questions, tell a brief story, or share dry humor with your own microcluster. Without effort, you become a node of energy within the room. Soon, people lean toward you, drawn into your orbit. Laughter sparks naturally, and your conversations flow without chasing recognition. In Machiavellian terms, this is indirect dominance. You don't demand authority, you embody it. Power demonstrated through composure is always stronger than power declared. You show social abundance by thriving without her immediate validation. When she glances back and sees you animated, engaged, and captivating others, her perception shifts instantly. She expected you to dim without her focus, but instead you shine brighter. This subtle contrast plants a deep seed of intrigue. It forces her to reassess your value. Perhaps you're not orbiting her at all. Perhaps she's been unconsciously pulled into yours. This quiet confidence is rare and magnetic. A man who can generate his own energy without relying on external cues signals emotional sovereignty. He doesn't compete for attention, he commands it naturally. Subconsciously, she reads this as high survival value. A man capable of navigating shifting social landscapes without losing composure or identity. Over time, these moments accumulate into a lasting perception. At future gatherings, she instinctively expects you to hold your own, and when you deliver consistently, trust deepens. She begins to lean into your frame in public, aligning her energy with yours without realizing it. Influence secured through composure is stickier than influence demanded through effort. This is the essence of social gravity. Power in public isn't about talking the loudest or dominating every interaction. It's about maintaining center even when focus moves elsewhere. The man who embodies quiet authority draws people in without chasing. For her, this signals long-term value. Someone who remains magnetic regardless of context. That memory imprints deeply. This test emerges in quiet, intimate spaces where real beliefs are revealed. You're sitting together late at night, soft lights glowing, the air charged with depth. She leans forward, studying you closely, and says, "I don't understand how you can believe that." Whether it's about politics, values, or life philosophy, this isn't casual curiosity. It's a probe into your core identity. At a subconscious level, she's measuring your internal compass. Evolutionarily, women seek partners who can offer stability in chaotic environments. A man without convictions signals danger, unpredictability, insecurity, and a lack of leadership. This test isn't about agreeing or disagreeing with her. It's about whether you can stand firmly on ground you've chosen without crumbling under resistance. The weak response comes from a desire to appease. Many men, fearing conflict or rejection, instantly soften their stance. They downplay their beliefs, lace statements with disclaimers, or worse, abandon their position entirely. Well, that's just how I see it, but I totally get your perspective. On the surface, it seems diplomatic. Beneath it, it signals fragility. Psychologically, this creates a quiet collapse. By bending too quickly, you communicate that your identity is negotiable. Her subconscious reads this as instability. If you fold under mild social pressure, you're unlikely to stand firm when real challenges arise. Over time, this erodes trust. A man without anchored beliefs doesn't feel safe to follow into the unpredictable unknown. This doesn't mean being rigid or dismissive. Dogmatism repels just as much as weakness does. What matters is demonstrating quiet ownership of your worldview. A man who listens fully, considers other perspectives, but stays grounded in his principles signals rare balance, open yet unshaken. That stability triggers something primal, safety paired with strength. The power response blends calm confidence with respect. When she challenges you, you take a moment, nod thoughtfully, and respond evenly. I hear you, but this is what I believe. It's how I make sense of the world, and I stand by it. No aggression, no defensiveness, no need to convert her. Your tone communicates sovereignty, not superiority. This works because it demonstrates what Machiavelli called principled strength, the ability to hold power without theatrics. You're showing her that your beliefs aren't dependent on approval or conformity. By standing firm without attacking, you position yourself as a man anchored in his values, which signals leadership, direction, and emotional security at a deep, instinctive level. Her perception shifts quickly. What began as a challenge transforms into intrigue. She recognizes your calm authority, noting that your convictions aren't situational or performative. Subconsciously, this builds trust. If you can remain grounded when pressed, you'll likely stay composed under greater stress. To her instincts, that composure translates to safety, an irresistible trait. This dynamic creates a paradox. By not needing to persuade her, you become more persuasive. Humans are drawn to confidence without force, and your refusal to over-explain signals abundance. You aren't seeking validation. Instead of chasing approval, you lead through presence, and this quietly elevates you above men who bend at the first hint of friction. Over time, this moment imprints itself as a reference point. She now associates you with steadiness, reliability, and emotional sovereignty. In future disagreements, her subconscious recalls your composure, subtly reinforcing attraction. A man whose principles hold under pressure creates psychological safety, and safety, paired with mystery, deepens connection in profound ways. Attraction here isn't built on charm, appearance, or clever words. It's built on demonstrated stability. You've shown, without saying it, that your identity isn't negotiable. That rarity makes you magnetic. Most men crumble when tested. You didn't. To her instincts, you become a fixed point in a chaotic world, someone to lean on, someone who commands respect naturally. When combined with the lessons of every previous scenario, this becomes your ultimate advantage. From subtle power audits to behavioral probes, from mystery tests to social gravity, and finally conviction, you've demonstrated mastery of self. Power isn't loud, it's calm, consistent presence. And once she senses it, fascination transforms into something deeper, devotion. Powerful men aren't defined by how loudly they speak, but by how little external chaos affects them. Across every scenario, subtle tests, shifting dynamics, and silent evaluations, the core lesson remains the same. Your greatest weapon is composure. When your identity is rooted internally, no distraction, challenge, or rejection can destabilize you. That is rare, and rarity is magnetic. Attraction isn't manufactured, it's revealed. You don't force connection by chasing, pleasing, or proving. You create it by standing firm in who you are, embodying quiet certainty, and letting her curiosity grow naturally. The less you perform for approval, the more others invest in understanding you. In a world drowning in noise, restraint becomes your loudest signal of value. Remember this, mastery isn't about controlling her. It's about mastering yourself. Social power, emotional sovereignty, and principled strength converge into one magnetic force, presence. When you embody calm authority, you don't need clever lines, strategies, or games. You become the gravity others can't resist. And once you hold that frame, the dynamic shifts permanently. True dominance is silent. It's not in chasing, proving, or performing. It's in knowing that you are the prize. When you stop competing for validation, the world begins to compete for yours. Women sense it, men respect it, and opportunities gravitate toward it. You don't need to persuade anyone of your value. You simply embody it. That is the essence of unshakable power.